Hey everybody, James with Love My Pups, my British supply. If you're not been subscribing to us, please do. We'd really appreciate the fact that you're supporting us, and we want to support you with good information and stud dogs and also products that will really help you through this whole journey that you're on to have healthy, happy puppies. All right, so this is a shout out to Kathy. Kathy gave me some information on cleft palates and folic acid, and I thought this information is so good that I should pass this along. So, I get quite a few people on a weekly basis to say, what should I give my dog when she is pregnant? And the things that I've always been saying to people is that you should give a good vitamin tablet, vitamins, and you should give folic acid. And I have not in the past a lot of information on exactly what's going on here, specifically with folic acid and why you should be doing this, other than the fact that there's some kind of a connection between folic acid and stopping or reducing the number of puppies that you have with cleft palates. And so we're talking specifically now, we're going to talk about folic acid. In terms of diet for your dog, by the way, I think that your dog may lose its appetite. It may have morning sickness partway through the pregnancy, especially in the first few weeks. Very likely to lose its appetite towards the end. And I mean, this can be a challenge. And that's a separate issue, but what I found works is sometimes to hand feed a dog that won't eat will be hand fed okay, and then give it something special. We use Biljack as a product that we go buy at Walmart in the frozen section, Biljack. That's the product that we use. It's not available everywhere, and it's certainly not the only thing that you can do. Some of you are feeding raw diets, fine. But you know, sometimes to go to a wet food is more enticing to dogs, and the important thing here is that we want to get a dog going into whelp not skinny. You have a dog that's going to have 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 puppies. It's a huge load on mum. Calcium deficiency is a real problem, so you can get milk eclampsia that can cause a dog to die. You can have lack of milk supply, which means the puppies aren't being nourished, which can cause them to die. There is nothing good about a skinny dog going into whelp, but it can be a challenge. So, vitamin, pet tabs is what we use, quality food that they enjoy, and if you have to boil up some chicken and rice, so be it. You need to get them eating, especially when you're in that last week. But here's the thing, folic acid. So, you know, there's lots of things that are talked about, and a lot of these things are kind of snake oil, and, you know, we do them because, you know, we just don't know. I like things that are based on proper scientific studies that show that these things are effective. And Kathy showed me that information, and it's overwhelming that you all should be giving folic acid, especially to brachycephalic, short-nosed dogs, boxers, bulldogs, French bulldogs, Boston Terriers. These guys should be getting folic acid, and they should get 5 milligrams per day of folic acid. They should be getting that. So we're going to talk about where you get that from, and we're going to talk about dosages a little bit as well. But here is the evidence, and this is not quackery, this is the real stuff. So she sent me a report, and it's a report of a study that's been going on for some time. The first thing is, what do we recommend that human women get when they're pregnant? And the answer is we recommend 2 things, amongst other things like good food and exercise, rest and relaxation, and good sleep. We recommend folic acid. It apparently has an effect on development of embryos. And by the way, something else that she mentioned that I've not seen anybody talk about is that you can have iron deficiency. And so they recommend that you also have a regimen where you're starting to give iron as well. And I think that's probably a good idea. I don't know what the dosage is on that. I'm not going to talk about that right here because I'll be talking about stuff that I haven't researched. But I did spend the time and effort to read the entire paper that she sent me. And I can tell you that it's pretty obvious that this can make a difference. And here's the deal, folks. There's a lot of you who have had the bad luck of having cleft palates. And your vet says, don't ever breed that dog again. That dog does not to be bred. Probably wrong information. Probably you could have fixed a lot of these problems. At least half of them, apparently, is by having folic acid on board. And you start this the moment that you see the first signs of heat. So it's the beginning of heat is when you start giving this. And you carry that on to at least 33 days after AI or mating. And you can continue it for the entire time until she whelps if you want to. But this is the period you've got to get the folic acid on board, get a folic acid levels up. So while this 33-day gestation period is available, that she's got folic acid, because apparently it is fundamental in how embryos develop, and it makes a big difference to this cleft situation. And so on this particular report, by the way, you'll find a lot of your foods have folic acid in it at the rate of about 0.18 milligrams per kilogram of food. So that's 2 pounds. So if your dog eats a pound of food, it's getting 0.09 of a milligram, and that's not what we want. We want something that's in the order of 50 times more than that. We want 5 milligrams. So on this study, and they studied a lot of dogs, and they actually even induced some what are called pro-antagonist folic acid products that stop folic acid production. And in those dogs, they had a much higher level of incidence of cleft palates. By the way, I didn't even talk about what a cleft palate is. A cleft palate is where you've got a dog that has an opening on the roof of its mouth. And if you look in that dog's mouth, and this is its teeth right here. Well, it doesn't have teeth, that's its gum line. You will see that there is an opening where there is a cleft that goes right up into its sinus cavity, the top of its mouth, all the way up to its sinuses. And sometimes it will even involve the lip. So it'll have a hair lip. So the front of their mouth will have a hair lip. Or sometimes, if you're lucky, it'll only be the hair lip, and the cleft is only just, the cleft is just in the front of the mouth. And those dogs are probably going to survive it okay. But the dogs that have a cleft palate cannot suckle. They cannot suckle because when they make a suckle to suckle milk out, air goes in through the cleft and into their mouth, and they cannot produce a vacuum, and they cannot suckle. Those puppies will have to be hand raised and tube fed until they can get onto get onto some kibble. And that can be 4 weeks of pretty tough time for you. And I can tell you, I have not tackled this very often, but my success rate with a cleft palate dog has been this number. Not one of them has survived. And some of them have got to the point where they're 5 weeks old, and they're little bitty dogs, and they're running around, they all seem happily, and then one day they collapse and they die. Somebody did put a report back that they said that all of these cleft palate dogs can be saved. Maybe. I've tried, and I've not been successful. I know other people have tried with mixed results. But look, we're not talking here about trying to save cleft palate dogs. What we're talking about is we don't want cleft palate dogs in the first place. And it appears as though your incidence of cleft palates goes from as high as 10%, which does seem like an awfully high number to me, but supposedly so, down to about half of that, 4.5%, just by simply introducing a decent amount of folic acid. So if you can halve your chances of having a ruination, of having a poor puppy with a cleft palate, this is very difficult to put up with. It's traumatic for you. It's emotionally straining. It requires a lot of your time, and financially, you can't. The whole thing's just bad news. If we can reduce our cleft palates in half, for the sake of literally a few dollars worth of folic acid, bloody hell, let's get it. Let's get it. So, how do you get it? So, if you go look at things for dogs, you're not going to find anything that's particularly useful in terms of what you can buy over the counter. By the way, this is all over the counter stuff. You don't need a script for it. So I'm doing this video because just today I ordered a couple of bottles of a couple of hundred pills that cost me 25 bucks. That's enough to do six entire pregnancies for 25 bucks on Amazon. What you're going to find is the majority of tablets, they're going to talk about 800 units or 500 units. Well, what the hell are units? These are mcgs, micrograms. It takes 1,000 micrograms to equal one. I'm sorry, my board's too wet. It takes 1,000 micrograms to get 1 milligram of what we want 5 of. So you have to give 5 of those tablets to a dog, and good luck getting that dog to take 5 of those tablets, because he's not going to want to take them, I can tell you that. So don't be looking at these. Don't look at things on Chewy and places like that. I don't think you're going to find what you want. But I did very easily find a number of places that were selling tablets, 100 tablets of 5 milligrams is exactly what we want. And that was about 12 bucks for 100 tablets, about 12 bucks. That's what you want, 5 milligrams. I don't care, according to this particular thing that I saw, it didn't relate it to the weight of the dog. It just said, give him 5 milligrams. Look, if you've got a little bitty Chihuahua that weighs 3 pounds, I'd halve that. I'd give him a couple of milligrams. If you've got, but anything else, all the way up to Great Dane, give him a 5 milligram tablet. Start when you see the first signs of heat. Continue it on for at least 33 days after you've AI'd them, which should be 45 days total. And why not just continue on until they whelp? Because I don't think it's going to cause any problems. Now, in this report, they didn't look at things like effect on litter size. They didn't report any adverse effects. Anytime that you give a drug to a dog, there's always the potential that you'll get unwanted results. They didn't talk about any of those in here. Any advice that you get here, please remember, I am not a vet, and if this goes badly wrong, don't blame me. I'm doing it with my dogs, I'm going to tell you that. I think that's about it. I'm going to do it from now onwards. And I just don't have very many cleft palate dogs. And by the way, this is one more thing. When the vet says, hey, you had a cleft palate dog in there, don't breed that dog anymore. I think that the relevant thing would be, how big was the litter and how many cleft palates did you have? Because it very likely does have some genetic markers that cause a cleft palate. And in those situations, you'd expect both the male and the female dog to participate in handing off this unfortunate situation where there is a genetic issue that causes a possibility of a cleft palate. And it probably is something to do with a gene that is to do with the generation of like nucleic acids or something like that. We don't know what that is, so we can't even talk about that. But you have 10 puppies and a single cleft palate. I doubt very much that was probably particularly a genetic issue, and it's maybe environmental. But if you start getting cleft palate puppies, I say this: do not breed those two dogs together. Don't blame it on the mum. Don't blame it on the dad. Fine, go breed them again, but just breed to a different stud. And if you get cleft palates again and you've been giving the folic acid, well, that might be a point where you need to say, I'm not breeding this girl anymore. All right. I think that's it. Folic acid, 5 milligrams. Don't go buy 1,000 mcgs, micrograms, because you need 5 of those tablets. You'll have to look a little harder to find the one that's got 5 milligrams, but 5 milligrams apparently is the magic number. $12 for 100 tablets. That's good for at least 2 breedings. It's $6 a breeding. Why would you not do it? We don't sell it on My Breeder Supply, but we do have lots of great products there for you. And we do have some wonderful stud dogs. And if you like this information, subscribe to us, because it makes me want to do more of them. We get a small amount of money back from our click-throughs. It doesn't amount to a lot, but it does help justify the quite a bit of effort it takes to put these together. And remember, all of this information is garnered by me through many, many years of breeding dogs successfully. And it is free to you. We don't ask anything back from you, but we would like a subscription from you. Thank you, folks.